Okay, next up, we're just going to go ahead and take this upper motor mount off. We're going to get onto the exhaust once we turn the motorcycle around. And of course, you can see, we got the gas tank off. And if you don't know the motorcycle, if you just bought this thing, and it's got a ton of miles, and people have been working on this motorcycle for the last 30 years, now that you got the tanks off, you're going to start looking around and checking everybody's work and see, what's gone on. Look at the wire harness. You can look at these brackets. Have they succumbed to vibration? Did your gas tank mounts, are they cracked? Is the gas tank sweating? Fuel. So you kind of got to be have your radar up the whole time you're working on your motorcycle. On the teardown, you're looking for stuff that people have screwed up over the years. I mean, if you know the motorcycle, yeah, you're more comfortable with it, but more than likely, you just bought this thing and now it's up to you to babysit it. So always kind of keep looking. Every area you're working in, is this upper motor mount broke? They do crack. I mean, these things vibrate. So you just kind of got to be your own best advocate and look at everything. So if you watch the Evo service video. In fact, we got to touch base on that right now. That's the VOS I just disconnected. And it was really hard to see in the service video. We had a VOS that we showed, but that's where it is on this motorcycle. On a bagger, it's going to be a similar location, but it doesn't have that style of mount. So that's what we were talking about, is the VOS, and there it is. So we'll set that aside, and I'm actually going to just stick this bolt back in so this little mount doesn't fall out of there. And that's the kind of stuff you can do. I kind of got the gas tank bolts lightly screwed in, and this project for you at home is probably going to take a while. If you're going to be sending the cylinders and heads out to the machine shop, you won't be doing it in a weekend, so you want to make sure the kids and everybody and you get your motorcycle going to be in a safe place. So you can just lightly put the hardware back in that way when it comes time to go together. Hey, I know where that bolt goes, right here. These things, I mean, you could throw them back on these studs just so you know. I don't got to think about it now, It kind of helps if you're not turning a wrench for a living and you don't know where everything goes. Now you kind of know where it goes because it's really in place. So, okay, next up, we'll spin around, take the exhaust off. Well, first things first, can't scratch Harleys, so let's go ahead and cover up the front fender just in case, because this is an old motorcycle and it'd be pretty hard to match up the paint on this. Cover that up. All right, let's get started and pull these heat shields off. And what I've done is I've kind of pre-lubed these, with a little WD-40. I do it to, I'll go on and on in these videos about the exhaust stud nuts because it's such a big deal that, if you strip an exhaust nut off, you're into pulling the head. If you're not doing a top-end R&R, it's a big inconvenience. So really, babysit your exhaust nuts. Worst part is it's going to be beyond your control because something this old, it's going to have had multiple exhaust systems probably put on it and so many people working on it that, it could happen. So really, what you want to do, pre-lube them, go around, a week before you do the teardown, just sit there and lube them and let it soak in. And if you come across an exhaust nut that is being stubborn, babysit that thing. Take your time, because if you don't, look at the location of where the exhaust stud is. It's not easy to replace. You have to take the head off more than likely. So heat, obviously gasoline vapors are flammable and you could explode. So if you don't know that, probably don't ride a motorcycle. But heat the thing up and keep working it, keep lubing it, and do all you can to save that exhaust stud, because if you don't, it really turns into a nightmare. So I'll quit talking about it, but I'll show you a tool that if you do go down that road, you can use. Okay, there it is. And you know what this tool does is when you have the exhaust system off, we'll mock it up and I'll show you how it works, but it's kind of your last ditch effort, and this thing's kind of expensive. So if that doesn't work, you're sending the head out, have it professionally machined out and a new one installed. So babysit your exhaust nuts. Let's move on here. So I've been pre-lubing them. In theory, they should come loose. Like I said, this is a gift of a motorcycle where people haven't been in there working on this thing every day. Your motorcycle could be different. And something like this, I'm not going to use air on it or electric because I want to feel the exhaust nut. I want to make sure that it's not, you know, seized. And another thing is, that's fine pitch thread. What a lot of people do is they'll get the motor all scattered apart and they'll grab a coarse pitch nut and then get it started and then just ram it on and destroy the threads. So pay attention. And also, I would take and update this to a later style. It comes with a flange nut. So these are pretty old school. Yeah, they actually have washers on these. It's so old. They don't do that anymore. So this one, of course, is going to be a little more difficult. Probably get in there with an open end, break it loose. Really, you got to think about, before you actually start the teardown, if you're looking in your factory manual, it's kind of guiding you as to things to check. You know, why are you going in? Listen to the engine. Does it have any abnormal engine sounds? A lot of guys, they don't know what's abnormal and what's normal, so get a second opinion. You know, if it's collapsing a lifter, or the lower rod's making noise, or it's packing carbon, you know, think about why you're going in. Most people, they're going to maybe do a compression test just to see front to rear or where it's at, or cylinder leak down. You know, that's going to tell you a lot. You put the bike at TDC. In fact, I got that tool here. I'll show you that. If you're a drag racer, you know, it's something you do. You leak the bike down. You notice the ET's going down. You put this device on there, and now you see, where is it leaking? Top dead center, you hook the hose up, you put compressed air into the cylinder, and you put your ear back to the exhaust pipe. Do you hear anything? Exhaust valve's leaking. Pull the air cleaner cover. Listen, intake's leaking. You can pull the crankcase timing cover inspection hole and listen in there. Is it all going by the rings? Is the top end, you know, the piston scored? So if you're not taking the motor apart, you know, these are things you'd want to do, but just for peace of mind to know what direction you're going when you get it apart. We're obviously going to take the heads apart and do a, you know, full radius valve job. We're putting new piston rings in it, so, you know, we really don't care at this point because we know we're coming all the way down. But for you, maybe you want to, you know, do a compression test. Maybe you want to do a leak down. So keep it in mind. It's just stuff you got to do before you take it apart. So Now, of course, I got the footrest off, and it's a tight fit here, so let's see if we can even wiggle it out of here without taking the air box off or any of that. Probably pull these off the studs. Kind of keep wiggling it. And you don't want to scratch your Harley, so let's set that out of the way. Keeping in mind now, if that was a touring bike, it was a bagger, the sequence of events would have been a lot different. You probably would have took the left-hand slip-on head pipe off. You would have been looking at the Y pipe, because more than likely, if it's a high-mileage bike, it's been cracked, or it's been cracked and welded. And now it's time to replace it, or you're going to probably put an aftermarket exhaust system on. But there again, you're looking at everything. You're looking at the mounts, you're looking at the muffler, exhaust. Okay, obviously these exhaust studs are in excellent condition, but should you have to go down this road with the tool, basically it's got a hardened little pathway here. So if the exhaust studs deteriorate or damaged or missing, or you've got it out, now you mock it up here, bolt that on, and that gives you a nice direct shot to get it centered to drill out the the broken off exhaust studs. So okay, so next up we're going to go ahead and take the air box off, carburetor, intake manifold, and get this teardown started.